All right, welcome back to the IMNerd podcast, guys. I'm your host, Freyway, and I'm here with my co-host, Kenny. And today we have a special guest with us. We have one of the earliest supporters of the IMNerd podcast, one of the earliest supporters on Patreon, Mitchell Nouse, aka HydroPump, from Slash Gaming. What's the Slash Gaming thing about, Mitch?
So that was like my gaming tag, my console / PC gaming tag. Started
Slash UN2.
Yeah, that was my gamer tag for Xbox in the 7th grade, so it just kind of stuck around. And it kind of got a little awkward when I started the Discord stuff for Yu-Gi-Oh, because I was Slash on Discord, and then it started merging, and then I had two names all of a sudden, so it was a little complicated, because I also went by HydroPump for Yu-Gi-Oh, like on Dueling Book or Dueling Network back in the day, and Duelist Grounds. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, so recently you actually got second place at RBET 3. For people who don't know, that is really big Edison tournament. It's run by Keegan. He has E3 Yu-Gi-Oh, the YouTube channel. He does a lot of content on Edison. He's pretty much the main guy behind the Edison Yu-Gi-Oh scene. And recently there was a big tournament. I think it was like over 180 players. And the good thing about that is it was on the weekend of a YCS. Like YCS Hartford was the same exact weekend. And there were still 180 something players.
And it was a holiday.
Yes. And it was Memorial Day weekend, right?
Yeah.
So there was a lot going on, and there still was 180 players. It's an online tournament that he does every other month. And it's completely like, grassroots. It's very small in terms of funding and stuff like that, but they still managed to get sponsorships for like Metafy for the second one. They give $1,000, I believe. And this one was completely funded by Keegan and like crowdfunding and stuff like that. So the community is still growing. As people know, I play Edison format as well. Kenny plays Edison format. Pretty much all my friends I've converted to play it if they didn't already. And it's really, really fun. Old school Yu-Gi-Oh! The game's very slow. Except HydroPump here decided that he didn't want to play the slow Yu-Gi-Oh! And got second place with a fucking Dragon Turbo deck, which is
You've been working on this Dragon Turbo deck for a while. This has been your little project for... This isn't the first time you've played with it, is what I'm saying.
Not at all.
There was a tournament I think it was April or March, and I brought the same deck. That was my first Edison tournament online for retro format, and then so I brought a deck very similar to this one. I think it's about 2 or 3 cards off in the main deck, so pretty similar. And I got third at that tournament, so that was I think that was like 120 players or so also. So
I remember you saying around that time that you made the deck, but you feel like there's still some more you could do to it. Like maybe it's not all the way there yet. And maybe those 3 cards is what it was. I mean, to be fair, third place was still really good too. I didn't realize you got third at that tournament. I thought it was lower.
Nope, it was, I got third, and that was like I didn't really know how the deck was going to go because I was just doing a lot of solitaire for that up till that tournament. And I was testing with my friend.
That's a great way to test this deck, though. That's how I actually tested it. Like Dragon Turbo, Norlaris, Lightsworn, certain decks, you don't really need an opponent. Like you can just kind of simulate what is happening for the most part. Like turn 1, this is what's going to happen. They can't do shit. And then you can go from there.
Yeah, pretty much. So like it gets like really in depth with like, I did like a lot of test hands, and you should have seen like the first build of Dragon Turbo, because it was like, looked nothing like this. And I kind of built it for like a month or so, and then I was testing with my friend at the time that we were like kind of testing buddies, and I was just playing with this deck for the lulz up to the testing of that tournament a year ago, and it's kind of like he was like, "Yo, you're destroying me." So
yeah, I
decided to bring that.
The interesting thing about it to me is that when I first, we started this podcast last year. It's almost been a year now. We started July 15th. You were one of the earliest people to join the IMNerd podcast Discord, the Patreon, everything. And you had sent me the Dragon Turbo deck. Like you DM'd it to me, I think in January of this year when I got into Edison format. Like when I was watching RBET 1, because you posted a link in the Discord. You were like, hey, do you mind if I post a link to this tournament that's happening right now online? It's an Edison tournament or whatever. And at the time, I wasn't playing Yu-Gi-Oh at all. I had been on a 6-year, 5-year hiatus. So I was like, yeah, sure, go ahead, post it. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm not one of those people who's like, don't post anything outside content in here. Like, go ahead. As long as people are not spamming it, I don't care. So I was like, go ahead, post it. And I decided, because I was in the house that day, it was a Saturday. I was in the house. I decided to turn it on and stream it to my TV. And the next thing I knew, I was completely addicted to Yu-Gi-Oh again in Edison format. And I saw how slow it was paced, and then I saw Dale Bolito playing on stream. But you had sent me the Dragon Turbo deck, and I was like, damn, this looks broken. And I did the same thing. Like, I went on Dueling Book, I did solo mode, and I just started drawing hands with it and simulating like what it would be like turn one. And then I started playing my friends with it. And even when I would win that early build, when I would win with it, it would feel like it does overwhelm your opponent when it gets to play. It's one of those decks that when it does do what it's designed to do, it's very oppressive. It's very hard to stop it. It draws nearly all of its cards, and then it heavy storms or giant tornadoes you, and then swarms the field with dragons and attacks you for game. There's not much you can do about it. But then obviously, because the deck can do that, it also has the problem of bricking, and it can be very inconsistent, and like some games you literally don't get to play. So that was my early experience with it, and then I started tweaking it, and that's how I ended up making the Machina Dragon deck that I was playing on stream like a while ago. And it was basically derived from your Dragon Turbo deck. So how did you even start the idea of building Dragon Turbo to begin with? Like what, I mean, it looks like you always liked the dragons, even as a kid, right?
It's kind of funny because like I used to hate like Dragon Ruler format. I'll be like, God, that format's like all those decks like spell books and Dragon Rulers are too broken, and I don't feel like buying these. And I was also like a teenager at the time, but
yeah, you had to be. That's almost 10 years ago now.
Yeah, so it was a while ago, and anyways, I kind of like took like ban list cards and I just like looked down the list because all the decks I saw up to that point were like pretty fair. Well, I've seen in tournaments and doing well recently. So I just wanted to see like if there's any brokenness with like Super Rejuve, and then I saw like all the discard cards like Trade In, Cards of Constants, and then you have 3 Debris Dragon, the fuel, the Cards of Constants as well. So it's kind of meshed into this like perfect storm where you have like all these discard dragons, and then you have Rejuve at 3. So I just kind of went from there, and then
a Magical Stone, which is crack in this deck.
Yeah, it's just like a free Blue Eyes level 8, and then you have like the 3 Red Eyes Metal Dragon before you got errated, so you can just like spam that a lot. And I was like doing builds with Red Eyes and without it, and believe it or not. And
I was about to say, I don't know how that works.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot more turbo. It was like almost Exodia-esque, but
yeah,
I decided like I'd rather go for like an OTK with Red Eyes, and that's kind of how it formed. But yeah, it started with Super Juve, and then it just kind of branched off from there.
So Super Juve was kind of you're saying that was the foundation. That was the card that you really wanted to play.
Yeah.
You wanted to find a way to make Super Juve competitive, and so that was the thesis for the whole deck is like, okay, I want to build around Super Rejuvenation, which makes sense because when you look at the deck, so for people who are viewing this on Patreon, the video version of the podcast, and also you can just go on edisonformat.com and look at the second place deck from RBET3, but we have the deck list up here, and there are a lot of discard cards. There's 3 Cards of Consonance, 3 Trade-In, 1 Lightning Vortex, 2 Magical Stone Excavation, and these are all cards that discard dragons, and there's also Card Destruction, which is just, that card is so...
my favorite card.
That card is nonsense. I actually have a thing in our little group, Card Destruction equals game, and Kenny's cousin Stango, who's been on the podcast a couple times as well, he always repeats that phrase whenever he draws it. Card Destruction equals game. Card Destruction equals game. He just says it over and over.
Yeah.
It's just so broken. The card is
a
insane.
fucked up card.
I used to play Dark World back in the day, so it's like one of my favorite cards, Card Destruction.
It's very overpowered. I tell people, like, Future Fusion is powerful, and Card Destruction is also outrageously powerful. They both do something ridiculous. Card Destruction a lot of times can be more powerful in a weird way because you not only fill up your graveyard and whatever effects you get from that, whatever setup you get from that, but then you also just draw cards too, which Future Fusion does not do that. Like, Future Fusion does not draw you cards. Now, granted, with White Stone in your deck, Future Fusion can make your hand size really big, and it could lead into trade-in combos and all that stuff, but it's interesting the way this format has been for me. So I started playing January, February of 2022. And when we first did our podcast with Dale Bolito, I was saying that I think the best deck, I hated Diva Hero, right? I still don't really like that deck, but I was saying that I think the best deck has something to do with Red Eyes. And like, you can go back to the first Dale Bolito podcast and listen to it, but I was on Red Eyes Darkness Metal from the onset because it reminds me of exactly what's wrong with Yu-Gi-Oh! In general, where you have this monster that's humongous and easy to summon, and it generates constant card advantage. Like, if you don't deal with it immediately, you kind of just lose the game from Red Eyes being on the field. Like, it cannot live for one turn. It makes your opponent go out of their way to like get it off the field. They'll play all their cards. They'll do whatever they have to do to get it on off the field. And then that's not even all of your cards. It's just like, that's just my red eyes you dealt with.
Yeah, the red eyes is definitely a big problem. He just like spams the field, and that's kind of how the deck performs at OTK. Just overwhelms the opponent in one turn by drawing through your whole entire deck and getting like you're essentially gold sarking your whole hand.
Yeah.
And then getting this perfect hand, and then you just win the next turn.
What did you play against in RBET3? This is something I want to get into, like the nitty gritty of how your tournament experience was. So what were give me your rounds. It was 5 rounds for you, or how many rounds for before top 8?
So I had to go 5-0 to get the top 8.
Right.
And I have a kind of funny story for that, real quick. But I went to my parents' house. I work away from my parents' house, but I went there because my sister was in town, and I got there like Friday night after work, and then I was like, I had the tournament on Saturday, and my mom was like, well, we're planning on going out at like 6 o'clock tomorrow to watch Top Gun and then do whatever after that. Because, she's been hyping this movie for like 3 years.
Oh my
She's been
God.
waiting forever.
Let me interrupt you real quick.
Yeah.
So I was working that weekend, right? I work at a bar. And I was getting so fucking annoyed. Because, I know the new Top Gun came out, whatever.
Oh,
there
gosh.
was this table of fucking white girls, okay? Just this table of white girls. There was guys there too, whatever, but they weren't the problem. There was a table of white girls, and every time they took a shot or like a drink or whatever, they would do a toast, and they would just go, Top Gun! And they would just yell Top Gun over and over, and I just didn't get it. I was so annoyed, because every 20 minutes, I would just hear this table of white girls go, woo, Top Gun!
This sounds cringe as fuck.
And I was just like, what are they doing? Like, why the fuck do they keep screaming Top Gun? Like, I don't get it. It was so fucking annoying.
Were they middle-aged white women, or were they just like random?
No, they were like middle-aged. They were between 30 and 50.
Okay, because the first Top Gun movie came out before we were born, I think. Or like,
yeah.
It was like
I like
80s.
Top Gun. I didn't see the new one. I saw the original Top Gun.
I've never seen the original, but I have no. So my friend
I like
me to see it,
but like, what the fuck? I don't get it.
Not a fan of Top Gun either.
I just don't get why they kept toasting the Top Gun every 20 minutes. Like, I didn't understand it, and I was just like,
these weird ass experiences.
I was so confused.
First thing comes to mind.
Dude, I'm carrying like kegs and shit, and as I'm carrying kegs, I'm looking at all these white girls go, woo, Top Gun! And I'm like, why? What's the point?
That is a rant. Anyway, Hydro, so your family's like, we're gonna go fucking see Top Gun. So they're like, woo, Top Gun.
Yeah, woo. So I was like, oh man, and it was like my family, my sister's in town, and we have family friends visiting, or we're going with friends as well of the family. So a whole group of people, and I was like, oh man. I just kind of brought together this plan. I was like, all right, if I can go 5-0 tomorrow, then get done around like 5, like right before, I should be able to go, because we do the top 8 on Sunday. And sure enough, I went 5-0. So
you needed to go 5-0 in order to participate with your family. And had you lost, let's say like round 1 or something, you basically would not have been able to play out to get the top 8.
Well, I have a teammate, Pro Storm. You guys, I think you guys are familiar with Pro Storm, but
yeah. He did really well in the last tournament. He might have did well this tournament too. I'm not familiar with the standings.
Well, we played the same deck, and he also made top 8. So
cool.
Same exact build, but he lost the round. I think he lost like round 4, and he had to wait like 3 hours to play his next match or something. So I would have been waiting the whole night if I lost at all.
Well, theoretically, you don't know this obviously, but theoretically, you could have gone to see Top Gun in that time.
Yeah.
And got back, and your match would still not have been ready yet, because 3 hours. I don't think that movie's 3 hours long, but yeah, that would have sucked. Losing would have sucked. But you went 5-0. So what did you play against? This is my original question.
Yeah. So round 1, I played against a Dark Plant Toolbox deck. Had a little bit of everything. And
I did too, randomly. It had Gigavice and Gigaplant, the Mystic Tomato, all that stuff. That's what I played.
Mark of the Rose.
Yep.
It had Junk Synchron.
Yep. I played against that deck round 1.
I actually went to game 3 because oddly enough, I lost because I didn't have a second 5-headed dragon in my extra deck.
That's
Never came up before. Yeah, it is wild.
Why did you need a second one?
So I had Future Fusioned, and then I got to the point where I was like, I need to get Pi Avarice, the stuff I Future Fusioned, sent to the grave, back to the deck, and then I drew Red Eyes because I just didn't have anything. And then the next turn, 5-headed was dropping. So 5-headed came out, but I had no dragons to summon to get Red Mid out. So if I had a second 5-headed dragon, I could have banished 5-headed to summon Red Eyes, and then Giant Trunade Future Fusion back, and Future Fusion.
Again, because you Pot Everest everything back. Okay, that's broken, but that does not come up very often. As someone who also plays the dragon deck from time to time, that has never come up for me, not a single time.
Yeah, so that was a bit wild. I actually lost because of that, though.
Yes, I lost. I'll give my quick story about how I lost a game to that deck. Round 1, game 2. My opponent, I Wing Blast his Gores. No, I Wing Blast his Giga Plant to the top of his deck, right? And he has only one card in hand, which is the Giga Plant that I knew he drew from Wing Blast. So I attacked him with Android and Colossal Fighter, and I passed. So I have Android Colossal Fighter. I'm pretty much guaranteed this is game. I already won game 1. This is game 2. I feel like I just won the match, right? Like he got Wing Blast for Giga Plant. What can go wrong?
Easy clap.
Easy clap. Like he's drawing Giga Plant. And so I attack him, and he goes with his only card in hand, which I have him on. It's Giga Plant because he used every other card, and I Wing Blast, so I know what it is. It's not in his grade ready, so I attack him. He drops Gores, and so he gets a token. I look at the log, and I say, "Wait a second." So I type in the chat like, "Yo, wait a second. Where's Giga Plant?" I was like, "How did you end up with Gores?" And he says, "I always had Gores." So I was like, No. Yeah. You didn't always have Gores. Like you
I always had Gores.
I said, where did the Giga Plant go? Because it's not in the graveyard, and it should have been the last card in your hand. That's the reason why I hastily Android Colossal Fighter attack. Like it was hasty.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking to myself, there's no fucking way I missed this. So I look at the log, and it's like, oh, he returned Giga Plant to the top of his deck and then shuffled deck. So we call a judge. The judge comes. They're like, hey, what happened? I say, well, literally last turn I Wing Blasted his Giga Plant to the top of his deck. He drew it. He passed. I attacked him, and he fucking dropped Gores on me. And the judge is like,
Plant turned to Gores.
Yeah. I said, yo, unless there's something about Dueling Book I don't know, that was what. So I tell the judge what happened. The judge is like, okay, we can fix this. So they make him go in his deck, grab the Giga Plant, and then I attack him directly with Giga Plant in his hand. And here's the crazy part though. So I lose this game. I have Colossal Fighter, Android, and like 2 cards in hand. I pass to him. He has a Giga Plant, whatever. He goes draw for turn. And he goes draw Brain Control Colossal Fighter, attack Android, tribute for Giga Plant, pass, and I have nothing. And then on the next turn, he just Giga Plant, bring back a guy, killed me. I could not fuck. Mind you, we waited like 20 minutes. We waited 20 minutes to resolve our entire, because at first he obviously tried to say that he naturally had Gores, which just wasn't true.
I was going to say, where do people draw the line in like game law? Like, in my opinion, he blatantly tried to cheat. It wasn't like
that's how I felt as well. I felt like he
should have just got a game loss. Like, it's not like a mistake where you go, okay, I'll fix the game state. Like, he tried. No, I always had Gores. Like, no, you didn't. You didn't always have Gores.
We actually had a lot of problems during our match. That was the culmination of all of it. That was the biggest one. But as I was playing, the entire match was frustrating. And I remember at one point he said in the chat, I prefer paper. And at first I didn't know what the fuck he was talking about. But he was talking about like, I prefer playing cards physically, like physical Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
Yeah.
But he said, I prefer paper, bro. And I was like,
rock, paper, scissors.
I think I said like, I do too, but still, because he was like misclicking a bunch of stuff. He was doing a lot of shady shit. And I've never experienced someone trying to per se cheat on Dueling Book. Yeah, I just never experienced that before. And I was like, well, you found a way to enter this tournament, which means you know about Dueling Book, you know about Format Library, you know about Discord. Like, you're pretty good with technology. And I feel like everyone who plays in a tournament is pretty decent at using a computer, using technology. So a lot of the issues that he was having, and when he said I already had Gores, I'm like, that just can't be true. And I was going to watch the replay after we were done and just make sure I wasn't crazy, but I knew I wasn't crazy because the log told me I wasn't crazy.
Yeah. I just feel like it's one of those situations where I would, like, you're trying to cheat. Like, that's a game loss. Like, that's...
Yeah. All right, well... Hydro, so you end up winning game 3, I assume. You probably just destroyed them, because I destroyed them game 3 as well. Like, turn 2, I think I won the game.
Yeah.
Like, I set Goblin Zombie. My Goblin Zombie didn't die. I think he set Raiko, passed, and I went draw, flip, summon Diva, do the whole thing. You know how it goes.
Oh, and, like, I was taking a while to, like, side deck or something, because it was just, like, a weird deck. he had like 31 ofs in his deck at least. Or
I felt the
something
same way
crazy.
about the guy I played. A lot of things.
He had like DDR, Marco LaRose. I was just like, what did I even side against this? But anyways, he was like, and I beat him game 1, and in game 2, he's like, "You're not gonna win, bro." I was like, okay. Well, I guess he was right because I didn't win the next game. But
yeah.
anyways,
So
but yeah, I just beat that guy, and then like the second round, I played against a like Diva zombie hero guy, kind of like what Silchus played.
Right.
He got 3rd place, but so I popped off. I went first, and I popped off, and I did like the whole draw your entire deck thing, and I didn't know he was playing because I just made a ginormous board turn 1, and went through my entire deck, and he was like, set 2 back row, set a monster pass. So,
and you
and then game 2, he left a Spirit Reaper in attack and poked. He had like Colossal Fire, Spirit Reaper.
Oh god.
And I dropped Gores, and then I made a giant field and just like crashed into a Spirit Reaper a bunch of times per game. So that's how I won that game.
Mm-hmm.
So wait, that was game 2, right? So he already saw what your deck does, and then left a Spirit Reaper in attack mode. Like,
well, he was trying to like. I guess he didn't think he was gonna die that next turn because. I mean, I was gonna clear the Colossal Fire anyways, but I was like, I was good.
He did that risky because he wanted that +1 from discarding a card with Spirit Reaper, which I understand. I get the whole wanting to get that +1, but if you're playing against a deck like dragons or zombies, decks that can blatantly kill you through a Reaper, you need to be careful.
And he only had one like set. It was like Wing Blast, so I just spammed a bunch of monsters on field, so you can't really do anything.
Yep.
So that was a very easy 2-0. And then round 3 against Quick Draw Plants, another easy 2-0. It was kind of funny because I had 3 cards left in deck, and I had this board. I could have killed him that turn, but I had like Stardust, Prime Material, Red Eyes, and like Gores or something. I could have killed him, but I just played it safe in case he had like Fossil Dynaset because he had a set monster that turn. But anyways, he summons Debris Dragon and makes a Iron Chain Dragon. I was like, where's this going? And I had 3 cards left in my deck, and he tried to attack over Prime Material to like mill me out of my deck.
Oh shit.
But I had Treacherous Trap Hole that side, and so I just popped that.
That's good on him though. The recognize that he could actually win the game. Like I didn't know where it was going either when you said this.
Yeah, I was like, wait a second, but
that's pretty good. Pretty good. I did that the Lice Worm before. I have done it the Lice Worm.
Yeah, it was definitely. It didn't come up for me. I heard it came up for someone else before.
Yeah, it's still very like. I don't know. It's still not the most common thing to happen, but basically my situation was just the Lice Worm player had 7 cards in deck, and he had a JD on the field with like some other Lice Worm monster that I could attack. I just attacked the Lice Worm monster. He milled 3, then I passed. He tried to, he couldn't kill me. Like, the thing is, he couldn't kill me, and JD was just going to be there and mill the last 3. He only had 3 cards when he drew, because he milled 3 for Iron Chain, then he drew for turn, and then he milled the last 3 on the end phase, so he just lost that way. But yeah, that win condition is pretty sweet.
Yeah, so it was quick thinking on his part, but I had the trap hole for game.
All right, that's round 3. So far we have random plant nonsense, Gigavice, whatever. Then you play Zombie Diva Hero deck, which is very popular. I played that deck as well. Then you played plants. Then round 4 is what?
Well, round 4. So I'm on this team, Ring of Destruction, and it's like this. We have like some of the best players like on the team. A guy named Randage like formed the team, so shout out to Ring of Destruction. But so we have like this like a whole group of us, like 8 of us in the tournament, and we all kind of like work together. And some of them already got the invite from the last tournament for making top 8, like Cam, Rog, Cameron Saunders, and Rog, and ProStorm had his invite for the first one, and we're all on the same team. So my next opponent was Cam. And we had like this little agreement is we'll just scoop to like whoever if someone doesn't have an invite already. So he was my opponent. And then like we'll just give him some prize money if we make top 8 because we're just all trying to get into that top 8 position.
No, that makes sense too because you guys have like a team. Everybody, if he already has his invite, like might as well do that, right? Like that makes sense. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So he was playing Black Wings.
Yes, he was playing Black Wings. He topped with Black Wings. I saw that.
Yeah. So I got the round 4. So round 4 bye, I guess you can say. But And then my next opponent was Hero Beat, and that was like the easiest 2-0.
I was about to say that probably was you. You were probably happy when you saw him summon Stratos and search out Alias.
Yeah, setting Debris Dragons like a FTK versus that deck. That's like the meme in our group.
We say the same thing at locals.
Yeah.
We say because at locals there are 3 hero players that come to my local. We have an Edison local, and literally every week there's so many of them. But setting the Debris Dragon is borderline game. Now I've helped them a lot by tweaking the build of all 3 of them. They all play the same thing, and I got them to all play 2 copies of Barbaros now, so that they just don't have this problem. Also, Barbaros is kind of crack. Ends the game really quick. Yeah,
you talked about like the more stun version rather than having like Miracle Fusions and stuff, which I like more as well.
I'm not a fan. I just think that my issue with the Miracle Fusion version of Hero Beat is that you could just play a better Miracle Fusion deck. I think that Hero Beat playing Miracle Fusion is the 3rd best deck with Miracle Fusion. I think the first deck is just the Frog Hero Monarch deck, right? Like that deck is the best Miracle Fusion deck in the format. It has a ton of water monsters, and it has easy access to like monarchs and frogs and all sorts of stuff. It does dupe block. It does a lot of cool things. And then the second would be Diva Hero, right? Diva Hero is one of those decks that my problem with it is that it has to draw all of its parts. It has to draw the hero engine, it has to draw the water engine, and then it also has to draw Miracle Fusion for it to be like a complete deck. And it doesn't thin itself out the way frogs do, which is why I think frogs is a slightly better version of Diva Hero. Like if it ever came to me wanting to play Diva Hero, I feel like I just could not convince myself to do that over playing Frog Hero Monarch, because one of the decks just does the same kind of thing, but better. It thins the deck out, and then it draws those cards. It draws the bombs. 6 Monarchs, 3 Miracle Fusions. It's like borderline 10 cards I want to draw. My deck is thinned out by a good amount. And then you have the Hero Beat deck, last but not least, playing Miracle Fusion, and it just doesn't mean as much when they have an Absolute Zero. I don't know. It just doesn't feel the same. There's not as much pressure. They don't synchro. They don't do anything. They just kind of summon Alias. Alias Absolute Zero is not exactly as intimidating as somebody going summon Stardust Dragon, set Wing Blast, set Solemn, and having, like Absolute Zero coming out from Future Fusion and all that stuff. It's just a lot. So I just think that Hero Beat should just be a full-on stun deck with Barbaros. Barbaros deals with a lot of the deck's problems. The deck has a problem with Gores. The deck has a problem with Big Butts, aka Debris Dragon, Dupe Frog, stuff like that. And also, it can take a long time to win in general.
Yeah, it can't really pressure you.
Yeah,
so
Barbaros puts the clock on you. Like, it's very, very fast. So all the hero players at my local now play 2 copies of Barbaros, and it makes that deck way more intimidating. I actually lost a game last Thursday because the guy went summon Barbaros, set Chalice Pass. And like, that shit just caught me off guard. And I was like, all right, well, that's one way to do it. But yeah.
It is also nice that the deck doesn't really side deck Duty Crow, so I just kept in my magical stones and just kept on turboing through the deck, and then I had Royal Decree, so that's like
Decree's
4 more, or that's 2 more. Yeah, that's 2 more auto wins versus the deck.
Just straight up game. I do have some questions too. About.
Yeah.
Oh, did you want to say something else about the hero beat? I mean, I just trounced it, whatever.
Yeah, I was going to say like one more thing. When we're talking about the original like idea for the dragon deck.
Yep.
It just reminded me because we were talking about how Hero Beat just loses to a defense monster. I saw like the original dragon deck, and I was like, there has to be something better than this, just because that deck just loses to like a Spirit Reaper or like a Marshmelon.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really a fan of just losing to like a dupe block,
Yeah, it's really, you have to specifically draw cards like Hero Blast and Gemini Spark and all, and you have to use them on not the best card. Like, I don't want to exactly Gemini Spark a dupe frog, right? Like, that seems so bad.
Yeah.
But sometimes that comes down to that with the hero deck. But Heroes top every single RBET tournament. I think it is the most consistent deck in the entire format because it does the exact same thing every single game. Like, it's not the most powerful deck by any stretch of the imagination, but it is the deck that does the same thing most consistently, which is Summer Stratos, set traps.
The guy I beat round 5, I played him again in like top 4.
See?
And it was another easy clap. But it just beats up on like all the other decks.
Yes.
It's like it's like the best beater deck. So
yeah, it gets over, like, if somebody's playing Glad Beast or any of those weird decks, Skill Drain just puts it in against all of those decks. Like, Skill Drain is so problematic for a lot of.
It has a nice Blackwing matchup too, for the most part.
Yeah, it can go toe to toe. If they don't draw Whirlwind, I think it's pretty favored the heroes. But if they draw Whirlwind, it's kind of like just count your days.
We have like a lot else to stop Whirlwind, like where you can chain like on the summon.
Yeah.
Because I remember one time I played Blackwings against Hero Beat, and he stopped my summon for like 10 turns. I just And I had to like double whirlwind. I just couldn't summon anything. But,
yeah, he's like Gemini Spark that one, Hero Blast the next one, Book of Moon the next one, Bottomless the next one. It's like, God,
that's exactly what happened. I was like, bro,
let me summon. I want to search.
Solemn Judgment, Sirocco, get out of here.
I'm like, oh I'll do it every time. If you have Whirlwind, I will solemn your normal summon, no question. All right, so I have some questions from one of our good friends, OG. He participates in we have like a little friend group that we practice with and stuff. And he was wondering about the Dragon deck because he was looking to, I guess, play it. He wants to know the inner workings of it, what you guys thought about certain things. So he sent me some questions to ask you, and I'm just going to read them off. So how did you deal with cards such as Soul Release and DD Crow? They hit cards such as Magical Stone Excavation upon average pretty hard. So that's his first question. Is like, how do you deal with DD Crow and Soul Release? And it sounds like you mentioned just a second ago that when you played against the hero deck, you know that they didn't have a Crow. So you didn't side out your Magical Stones, which insinuates that you naturally do side out Magical Stone Excavation.
Yeah, like 90% of the time. Like if I think crows are coming in, then I side out Magical Stone because doesn't really feel too good if you go discard 2, add something back, and then it gets DD crowed.
Yes.
So
yeah, I think that makes sense to me. I think that one is a little bit more self-explanatory to me. I mean, Soul Release is not exactly great against dragons either. It's very specific when it can be good against a deck, right?
Yeah.
Like it's I don't even I guess if you Future Fusion and you didn't summon a bunch of red eyes on the end phase and like you just have your graveyard just big chilling.
Do you have a go-to card? Like, I know obviously every matchup's different, but for example, Magical Stone, a card that you know 90% of times you're siding it out. Do you have a card that you go 90% of the time, this is what I'm siding in Magical Stone's spot?
Yeah, Lightning Vortex is like a really insane side deck card because people side in like Fossil Dyna, Vanity's Fiend, there's like all these anti-meta monsters and you just wipe them out. It's pretty simple. And then maybe Book of Moon depending on the matchup as well. But you just want to like stop their anti-cards and those do a good job at that.
And Lightning Vortex happens to be a discard card, so it fuels Super Rejuvenation. Lightning Vortex is actually crack.
Yeah.
I think it should be sided in every deck, by the way.
It's my favorite card. Or like one of my, it's the best side deck card anyways.
Yes, it should be sided in every single deck, no question.
I even went ahead and main decked one, and I can go into that later on too. But
okay.
And then sometimes we side out one Pi Avarice, like if we're playing against a deck that can like rush us really quick, like just put a lot of pressure, we side out Pi Avarice just in case we like open 2 pot and then we can't do anything.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or we're playing against like a deck that has a lot of grave hate by chance, and so we can take pot out.
That leads into the next question. How do you feel about the zombie matchup? They have Book of Life, Bionic, Floaters, in addition to previously mentioned side deck, like, you know, cards that would naturally hurt.
Yeah, it was the zombie matchup. I mean, it's not like they can't Book of Life chain to like anything, so that's fine. And it's the same thing with Soul Release. Like, as long as they're not like Soul Releasing anything like really crucial, like your utility dragons are kind of important in the situational play, like Prime Material, Draco, Clear Vice can be important. But everything else, like as long as your 3 red meds aren't in the grave, you don't really care too much.
What would you consider zombies to be one of your tougher matchups just because of how fast that deck can be? Like the turn that you take to try to set up, and they're just like, okay, I'll take that opportunity to summon Diva and synchro with my Goblin Zombie because they can do a lot of damage really fast.
Yeah.
I was going to ask something similar in that it seems like decks like this, I would feel as though they more so like slower decks like Dandy Warrior, right?
Yeah, very
like
slow.
Decks that take time to set up but are good long game. Like they're just hoping that you brick because otherwise
yeah.
But like combo decks or fast decks like zombies, they might be decks that actually pose a threat to a deck like this.
See, like Blackwings and zombies can be pretty quick. Well, I should say Vayu Turbo to be specific.
Yeah,
Vayu Turbo can hit you for 4,000 with 1 Greffer, like a summon Greffer for 4,000. But yeah, I was wondering how you feel about those matchups that are like other fast decks that are already established in the meta.
Yeah, those are probably like the harder matchups just because they can just rush you down really quick before you can get anything going. And then you need a turn to get Super Rejuve going.
Yeah. Is that what happened in the finals? You played Blackwings in the finals, right?
Yeah, it was like a Vayu Blackwing mesh. And I think if I just have like a monster, if I drew a monster, because he decked up me and then I could have gotten something going. I kind of made a mistake that final game by setting treacherous trap hole, because a couple of turns later I drew Gores, and he knew trap hole was there, so it wasn't like he was going to play into it really.
Yeah,
I just didn't want to get beat down.
Yeah,
but anyways,
Gores is so tricky in this format because I come across the same issue where sometimes I'll set something and then I'll draw Gores after. For example, I feel like with me, it's always fucking Solemn Judgment. Solemn Judgment and Gores for me have this really big hate relationship with each other. Like it's super hateful because I always have Solemn and Gores together, which is awkward. Or I set Solemn and then I draw Gores like the very turn after I set Solemn, and it's like, oh god, am I ever like? I'm probably not going to get to drop this Gores now.
Yeah, it's kind of similar with this deck with because you have Future Fusion that's up, so you have to sometimes you have Gores and Future Fusion. You have to kind of like, do I want Gores first and then, or do I just want Future Fusion now? And but
the cool
aside from that, Gores is like this insane in this deck.
Yeah, because it helps you to OTK them. What I like about Gores in the Dragon Turbo deck though is that when you do what you're supposed to do, which is draw a bunch of cards and get to the end phase, and you have the discard for hand size, you can just discard Gores if he's like not relevant.
Yeah.
Like if your field is not completely open, you have Future Fusion up. You're like, okay, well this guy's dead, and you just get rid of it.
Yeah.
And I love that.
And or if you find Tragodia too.
Yep. You're like, oh, I don't need this because Tragodia, for the most part, is just better. I mean, stealing monsters is pretty insane, especially if somebody summons Absolute Zero against you for some reason or a Stardust. You're like, oh, thank you.
You can crash into like a Judgment Dragon and then steal it.
So that's crash into a Judgment Dragon.
Like if they have a Judgment Dragon on the field.
Yeah, summon Whitestone, crash, take 2900, drop Trag, search out Blue Eyes, discard Blue Eyes, take
something
that's
like that.
So broken, Trag is nice.
But to answer the question about like the zombie thing again, just Drago does a really good job against zombies, just because like if they're just like turtling on Pyramid Turtle, you can just crash into it a couple times, and then they don't have anything to summon off it.
Yeah, that's awkward. If you summon Draco at any point, it kind of neuters the deck a lot. Yeah, I mean,
and then you can kind of like against like decks that pressure you a lot, you can also just like Lightning Vortex their board. So it's kind of weird. Like they have to rush you down, but then they can play into Trag, Gores, Lightning Vortex. So it's a little awkward for them too. But yeah.
I was gonna say so the last question here about OG is, how do you feel about the Frog Hero Monarch matchup, or just like the Frog Monarch matchup in general? I think the reason why this question is being asked, I have some insight on like what he's actually getting at here. So it can be, I'm not sure how much experience you have with this, but Ryza specifically can be very, very, very detrimental when he makes you top deck like a Red Eyes and you're in kind of a spot where it's just a really bad draw. I don't know if that's something that you've experienced, or if you feel like the Frog Hero Monarch matchup is one of those matchups that needs any specific attention, or just feels kind of like it can go back and forth, or how, I don't know, how do you feel about that matchup in general?
So if I know I'm playing against like the Frog decks, like with Ryza, Wing Blast, and all that, I try not to like set anything, because that's gonna be like worse than. So I just like discard cards at end phase if I can't get anything going, because I'd rather just get rid of like the trash cards rather than set it and then get stacked on top of my deck. And
whenever you play, and this is just general knowledge for people who are listening, if you ever play against a Monarch deck in general, the best way to deal with Monarchs is to not commit to the field, because Monarchs is a deck that literally requires that you commit to the field for them to work, except Dastalos, who happens to be, honestly, Dastalos is probably my favorite Monarch at this point. I talk about that fucking card all the time. I love that card. I think Soul Exchange Dastalos is a 2 for 3. And it's so nice when you get to do that, because you usually hit whatever monster you tribute it, a card out their hand, which is unexpected, and then also whatever back row they end up using to get rid of it. Most of the time people end up having to use some kind of back row to deal with it. So it's really cool that it can just like take away so much card advantage. But Dastalos is not played really, and Ryza
it'd be good against dragons.
Yes, it in a weird way, hitting your hand is definitely the way to deal with the deck, but no one plays Dastalos. So if people were playing Monarchs now, like if I were play a Monarch deck, I guess an RBET4, it would probably be playing like triple Vanity's Fiend, triple Dastalos, triple Kaiash, triple Ryza, and then just a bunch of the, just the regular Frog pack. I would completely forget the fucking Monarch. I'm not Monarch, the hero package. As cute as that is, the meta has shifted so much where I think that you're going to see more dragon decks now. Zombies also are just naturally good against the standard hero frog monarch deck. Like it's just really good against that deck because it's slow, and Book of Life gets the really like they will Book of Life both your tree ones at some point, or they'll just like kill you.
That's like the problem with the monarch decks. They're a little too passive, and then they can't really do a lot in the turn for the most part.
I also think monarchs have a hard time with Gores. That's just in my experience. Gores hurts monarchs more than any other deck. Like when they attack, when they're doing one monarch per turn, and you're just like drop Gores on the monarch attack, and you get a 2400 token, it's so hard for that deck to deal with that.
One thing, I remember struggling against Frog. Frog's like the frog guy. If you guys don't know, the guy that topped the last ribbit with the frog hero deck. Mm-hmm. He got like second. He used to play Diva Frog Monarch, and he was able to make the X-Saber Urbellum, the level 7 guy. And that's really good against this deck because I'm not putting anything on the field, and then he just summons that, and then he just keeps on like spinning stuff to the top of my deck.
He keeps trying exactly the same.
Yeah, so I just lose if I don't have like Trago Gores.
You have to commit, and that puts you right into a monarch.
Yeah. So
it's like, oh, you put something on the field now to not get hit by Urbellum, and now you get Caius. Now you get Rise.
And that's one thing when I originally built this deck. It was kind of like the go against where, Raikou, Caius, Icarus Attack, there's all these cards that take away from your opponent. So it's almost better to not commit to the field. It's almost better to do nothing than do something, because like they're just going to pop your stuff for value, because otherwise they have to like flip Raikou, no pop, they just mill, or summon Caius, banish their own card just to get 24, or there's plenty of times where my opponent does Icarus Attack their own cards just to pop one of my cards. So
and it's
kind of funny.
I love the plant deck in general. Like I consider it, because I tend to play the full quick draw deck, but without quick draw, because I hate quick draw as a card. I think it's so fucking bad. But I love the engine.
Bad tempo.
Yeah, I love all the other cards in the deck. I love Pot Avarice. Resolving that card feels so fun. Raikou and Hamster and Triplicate is really nice. I love a lot of things with the plant decks. I think the Blue Dragon's a fantastic card, like Dandelion, that whole synergy. All of that's great. The deck is really, really slow though. And like you said, it doesn't really do anything if people don't commit. If people don't commit, a lot of the format doesn't do anything, but this is where the best decks come in. So I think that we're starting to get to a point. I think every RBET tournament refines the format and gets us closer and closer to a quote unquote best deck. And it looks to me like the decks that are the absolute craziest are the ones that really don't require input from your opponent, which is in a way is kind of unfortunate, because I'm basically saying the non-interactive decks are the best. But if you look at Black Wings, right? Black Wings plays cards that do interact like Icarus Attack, but it also just plays in a way that's so aggro and doesn't really need your opponent to do anything. Like if they don't do anything, they will just die for that. You cannot just do nothing against Black Wings. It doesn't need you to put a monster on the field. It doesn't need you to put a back row on the field to get value. It will just kill you, and that's fine with that deck.
Yep. Usually you win by not interacting with your opponent.
Yeah.
Like if you have like the nuts, like you're not really interacting with your opponent.
You're like Whirlwind, Sirocco, search out Gale. Yeah, like it's like I'm not really interacting with you. I'm just kind of doing my own thing, and I don't really care what you're doing. I'm just attacking, and it attacks you for so much damage. There was a game I saw, I think Cam played in like top 8, let's say. I don't know exactly when it was, but he played the game in Top Cut, and his opponent's playing Glad Beast, and he goes Cold Wave, and he ends on like Murmillo in defense mode, and he Cold Waved Cam. Well, I guess he really Cold Waved himself. On the next turn, Cam summoned Sirocco, special Bora, special Gale, pumped Bora. Bora was 5,000. Then he attacked and dropped Kalut. So Bora was 6,400. Oh 6,400 Bora attacking a defense Murmillo.
And then they can't do anything the next turn.
And then I think he wrote in the chat like Cold Wave is a hell of a card.
Yeah, Cold Wave and Gladiator Beast, like it might have been good in older formats, but it's so bad in like Edison format. Yeah, because you use Cold Wave, lock yourself. You can't use War Chariot,
which is your best card.
Yeah. So
no, it's
sure
really,
you might like Murmillo safe pop or something, or Gazaris.
If you're not doing Cold Wave into Gyzaris, pop, and then establishing some kind of like field when your opponent is low on resources, because Cold Wave, like you said, is not that good if your opponent has, if they're playing a deck that's monster heavy and has resources. Like for example, you're playing against Quick Draw, they have a Dandelion in the graveyard that you have not banished and you can't banish for whatever reason. They can just debris drag you next turn unopposed, right? Because you can't play any back row. Cold Wave's in effect. It's like, oh, you just get Black Rose for free now. Thank you. But if your opponent's like kind of low on resources and you cold wave and like, Jaizarstum.
Yeah.
Jaizarstum is still an insane card. So is Secutor and all that stuff. But it's really interesting. I guess the Glad Beast matchup for you can be interesting too. Like I think they once they realize what you're playing, if they know what you're playing going into it, they're going to Secutor you first, like at the first sign. You can't. There's really nothing you can do, right? It's like you put a card on the field, they Secutor you, or you don't put a card on the field, which is how the deck naturally plays anyway, and then you get Secutor that way too.
Yeah.
But
it's kind of funny that you brought that up because Pro Storm's like pretty much like my testing partner, and we played the same deck. So we were like testing like a lot for this tournament, and we had like a side deck strat for Glad Beast just in case we ran into it, because it can be troublesome if they do just like spam Secutor. But like I did like a turn one, or I just drew a bunch of cards, but I didn't have anything on the field, and he went like GB Tiger in a Secutor and just like summon Herc and set 2 back row. So he had like 3 in hand. He had I knew he had War Chariot, and then he had, I think his other card was Solemn Judgment. But at this point, I had already done like the turbo thing, and you said that in previous podcasts, like if you're on Herc, a bunch of cards in hand with War Chariot set, you're good. Well, I actually played through his 3 cards in hand, his War Chariot, and Solemn Judgment that he had set, and just won that turn.
Yeah, your hand had to be obviously insane though, because it's not.
Yeah, I drew my whole entire deck.
Yeah, so. to break a Herc Chariot, you need one of 2 things to happen: either a outrageously godly hand or a really stupid opponent, and there's no in between.
Yeah,
like your hand has to be God or your opponent has to be slow.
Yeah,
and there's literally no in between, because you don't have to negate 90% of your cards. I will let them walk. Like 90% of things you do, but like if you start your turn, I'll be like Heavy Storm. Well, I have to negate that. Giant Trunade. Okay, well I have to negate that too.
Yeah.
And then it's like Lightning Vortex. All right, well I obviously have to negate that too. And then it's like, okay, if you have more cards to play after that, then sure, you will break my Herc Chariot by playing those 3 cards. But if your hand is like, I don't know, Heavy Storm and then Trading or something, like sure, go ahead and trade it. I don't give a fuck. Like you can do it.
So most of the times you can't play through it, but like that particular situation, it was like I had the absolute nuts to break his nuts.
I think if any deck could do it, it's definitely Dragons. After Dragons does its draw the whole deck thing, right? Like because you construct your hand. Like I've played because of you, I've played Dragon Turbo quite a bit this format, and I'm aware of like sculpting your hand is something that you should not be allowed to do in Yu-Gi-Oh. Like hand sculpting is so funny. I actually played Dragon Turbo last week at my local, and round 1, like my opponent's, he's like, "What are you on?" Because I think my hand was bad, but I set Whitestone. And like he killed Whitestone and made my trade in live. And then I just kind of went. Yeah, I just kind of went. Yeah. So I like searched Blue Eyes. On my next turn, I drew, and I already had trade in hand. I think I drew like a cards of consonants, and then I just like spiraled out of control. So in one turn, I just drew so many cards. And then at the end of the turn, I super drew for 6, super drew for 6, super drew for 6. And I had so many cards, man. I'm just like, I'm literally throwing cards in clumps. I'm grabbing cards out of my hand in clumps and just throwing them in the graveyard. And I ended on like, my ending hand was True Date Heavy, 3 Red Eyes, and like a Debris Dragon or something like that. And he was just like, as I'm throwing I'm throwing some crazy cards to the graveyard too. Like I was throwing, like I drew like,
don't need that.
Yeah, I was like, I don't need that. I was just throwing shit. And he was like, what are you on? He's like, well, I'm sculpting my perfect hand to kill you next turn. Like I don't need 90% of these cards. Like you're gonna die. But yeah, it's really fun when you get to the end phase and you can just sculpt your hand. It's not a normal thing to do. So it feels really cool.
Yeah. I think I had a rejuve for like, I resolved like 4 rejuves in a turn because of Magical Stone. So that's pretty cool. So I drew like 16 cards.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, dragons are really fun. I don't spam it at locals, any kind of deck like that, because like when we go to local, we
kill off the scene.
Yeah, because I also don't want everyone to just decide like, oh, this is what we should all be doing. Like I have an affinity where I love the Nerlaris deck. I think it's one of the best decks in the format. I preached about it a lot in the beginning. I still think that deck is absolutely insane, but it's not fun to play with or against. It's fun to play with, I guess, but it's not fun to play against. It's not fun to. The person sitting across from you is honestly terrified the entire time, and not in a good way. Like they're just sitting there frantic, hoping to God that you don't end their life.
Yeah,
it's a pretty boring deck. Yeah, because it's like whether or not I win very rarely has anything to do with me.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly right. What you just said is exactly right. It doesn't matter. Like what you did is more so like, did they have it or not? Like, did they have Future Fusion? Did they have the setup for Dark Creator? Do they have Nerlaris turn 1, which takes away all my cards and I can't even do anything?
Yeah. Well, in the past, I liked playing decks that like people didn't like. Like I liked playing Infinity in 2014. I was like one of the like OGs that stuck through with the Infinity even before Soul Charge came out.
Yeah.
I played Dark Worlds and people didn't like that in 2012. So I played a lot of decks that people just didn't like very much, but like it was fun. It was fun. I wasn't like trying to be that guy. I just I like taking the decks that are like only good game 1 before you side deck, and then like making it actually work good. So
no, that's cool. I mean, that's a challenge in itself, right? Like there are certain decks that I think are very strong game 1, and then they have some of the most outrageous side deck cards against them that make them not really play up. Like for example, Frog Monarchs, right? Like straight up Frog Monarchs. I think that deck is fucking awful. Personally, I hate it so much. I think it's one of the
so much side deck hate.
It's because of the side deck hate. I think I hate it so much. It's people naturally side Mask Restrict or Pulling a Rug. They naturally side DD Crow. Then you got people on Fossil Diner. You got people on Banisher to Radiance. You got people on Soul Release now because of the Frog Hero Monarch deck. You got people on Book of Life and main deck game 1 now. Like there's so many things about it that just make me not want to play it. But then at the same time, technically, from a just objective standpoint, like spamming Monarchs and spamming Vanity's Fiend and stuff like that is actually really good though. Like you could totally beat somebody if your deck is main deck in 3 Vanity's Fiend, 3 Thestalos, 3 Ryza, 3 Caius, and it's just like frogs. Substitute is still one of the best cards in the entire game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Period. It is one of the absolute best cards printed. It does not have a once per turn clause as a secondary effect, which is actually relevant. And it just enables some degenerate shit. Like, for example, one pack from Edison is Frog FTK, one of the best decks of all time. Literally is enabled by Ronin Totem and Substitute being in existence. Like just because those 2 cards exist enables an entire FTK deck, and they only get 1 card. People are like, oh, like well, how come Sabers are bad? It's like Sabers doesn't have like 6 of its cards, right? Like Sabers is down so many cards. It doesn't have Dark Soul, it doesn't have Boggart Knight, does it have Pashul even?
No.
Is it right? It doesn't have Pashul. So Sabers is down a lot. Sabers is down bad. Infinities is not even a deck. Like there's so many decks that they need the next set to be really, really good. And Frogs is just
Shiny Darkness was broken.
Shiny Darkness is fucking insane for the game. But yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say one more small thing. You mentioned Sabers, but I think this deck, like, there's like other combo decks in the format, but the problem with them is that they have to commit something before, like, on the field before they can actually like build a board. Where this deck's is like, oh, Heavy Storm, Giant Tornado, Lightning Vortex, get all that out here, and then you summon stuff.
Yeah, it's just like clean your field, and I will not give you another turn. You don't even get another turn. And depending on the setup, like I played against McCabe last week. He was using Frog Monarchs, and I was using the Dragon Turbo deck. And like I did nothing for 1 or 2 turns. I think I forget exactly what happened, but I did nothing for like 1 or 2 turns. Then I exploded. And when I exploded, I summoned 3 Red Eyes. Then at the end of it, I summoned Quackamiel Drago, and I attacked from the game. And there's nothing you could do about that. It's like, he did have Gores. And at first he like put out Gore. I was like, you actually can't do anything. It's like, you're actually 100% dead, no question, right? Like, you can't play a single card. So
Drago's kind of like the game sealer.
I love that card. I love the feeling of having it on the field. Even if they don't have Gores, just the feeling of knowing that if they do, they can't.
It doesn't matter. There's no like there's no Swift Scarecrow or anything like that they can do.
I get so excited that I start attacking my highest monster first. Like that's how excited I get when I have that on the field. I'll just swing with Blue Eyes. Fuck it, Blue Eyes attack. It's like I lose all my morals.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty funny. But yeah, that's like again, the deck. Like I just backtrack a little bit real quick. I played the deck for a couple months after the Edison Legends, and then like, it's a diverse format, and there's a lot of different decks to play. So I kind of like put this deck down for a while because again, it's not really too interactive for either player.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to try other decks, and then so I kind of ventured around for a couple formats.
I was watching,
or a couple months. Or so.
I was watching when you were venturing around. I was watching your YouTube channel, and it was the funniest shit I've ever seen because you just be on YouTube live streaming playing 50 card X-Sabers with fucking like 3 Giant Rat and Rajigara and all of these ridiculous combos that you can do and Infernal Reckless Summon. And I'm just watching, I'm like, Hydro, what is this? Like, what is this? And then when you would do your combo, it would be nuts. Like when you would finally pop off, like with Rescue Cat and Voltron and all, it would be insane. But when you don't do that, it's just like, what is this nonsense? Like, it's just
there's I made a video for my YouTube channel, and it was like that deck, but it was just showing all the different combos you can do, and then there's this like really bad X-Saber called X-Saber Axle or something like that, and
that's what it was.
You draw a card each time like one of your X-Sabers dies by battle, so you can like reckless summon 3 of him out, and then
crash Ember's
Blade 3 times. So you draw 3 cards each time you crash a saber into your opponent's monster. And if you have Black Garden, so you can. If you have Black Garden, then Ember's Blade just has a free monster to crash into. So it was pretty funny. It didn't work out too well, but like if you get the combo off, you get the combo.
Yeah,
off,
I saw you get the combo off, which was funny. One of the games, you just in your 55 card deck, you raw draw Rescue Cat and double Fotral, and I was like, get the fuck out of here! Like, get out of here!
It was calculated.
Something cat good. Okay, before we go any further, since we're around the halfway mark, I just want to give a shout out to our patrons over at Patreon. So the IMNerd Podcast has a Patreon where we have exclusive content, like episodes that only release on Patreon. Mitch can vouch for that. And those episodes are pretty cool. We also have a Discord server, which you can gain permanent access to. If you subscribe at even the lowest tier, the $3 tier, or any other tier, you get access to the Discord server, and it's permanent. And then we have other things like you can duel the IMNerd Podcast. Preferably, we would like to play Edison format or go to something like that. Something that we actually know how to play. Don't challenge us to like 2022 Yu-Gi-Oh! Because I actually have no idea how to pilot Despia or whatever the best deck is right now. I think Punk.
Mystic Mine.
Yes. Actually, yes. That is the best deck. Actually, yes. I don't want to play that nonsense. And people at my local have stopped showing up because of Mystic Mine. I think like last Thursday after Hartford, when I went, I was playing the Dragon Turbo deck at my local because we have an Edison tournament, and we also have Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Having it at the same exact time. They segregate us. The left side of the room is Edison. The right side of the room is Modern. And recently, the Modern players have been dropping off. Like, they just have not been showing up as much. So last week, they had about 7 players.
Oh, my God.
And it's because I think that the format is pretty toxic. I see a lot of the good players complaining about it in general. Like, instead of I won't criticize them and say instead of adapting, because it's kind of hard to adapt to a format where your opponent will kill you if they just do their combo, right? Like if you just let your opponent do their full combo, their deck will just beat you that way. And then the other side of the token is if you don't play back row removal, you will just lose the game to Mystic Mind flat out. And there's really no in between in the format is literally those two things.
Yeah. I'll let you do the people, and then I have something to say about that.
Gotcha. All right. So without further ado, guys, check out the IMNerd Podcast Patreon. Anyway, we have Connie, Austin, Leon, Quest, Garen, Xavier, Hylian, TCG Automotive, Silver Chronic, Tyree Tinsley, Dimitri Barnes, Alexander Brissett, Vinny Casello, Game Freak Yoshi, Alex Flamer, Andre Reynolds, CJ, WK Dad1, Dan Vrabel, Dennis Milburn, Joseph Marcello, Red Vines, First to Home, Dallas Fernares, Tom Watabiki, Estat Akuma, Mitchell Nouse, who's our guest today, Midwest Gaming, William Shapiro, Dimitri Safirdis, Vince Marquette, Dallas Bailey, KJ, Biz, Roz Weiss, Luke Feeney, and Nick Stengo. Thank you guys so much for supporting the IMNerd Podcast. We really appreciate it. As I always say, it goes a long way. All right, let's get right back into the show. So you were going to say something about Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Do you play?
No. I actually kind of stopped playing around the same time you did. When like I saw like the zoo combo with like you draw like 20 cards or something.
Yes,
I was like, I'm done with this. This is not okay. And then like after that, this is how like
then he goes to Edison and does the same thing.
Well, yeah.
Then he goes to Edison for a minute and terrorizes the Edison kids.
It's okay because that's the only deck. It's the only deck that does it.
So you want to be the only one?
It's cool when only I can do it.
Yeah.
When everyone else is doing
it, man.
He goes to Edison and he gets the kids who are stuck in the past. He terrorizes them for a spell. He's like, guess what I just learned from Modern. Oh, that's fun. No, that's great. I'm just teasing you though. Go ahead.
Yeah. It's okay. But what was I saying? But yeah, I kind of there's like every format after that was just like the same. I was like, well,
yes,
this is terrible.
After 2017, or I guess 2016, 2017. After that, so I remember because I was judging. I stopped playing Yu-Gi-Oh, but I was still judging my regionals in Philly. And Philly regionals are always 10 rounds, and they're like 700, 800 people, like crazy. They're YCS level back in the day, because now YCS is always over 1,000. But they're like really, really big, and I was judging. So I got to see the game despite not playing the game. And one of the first format that was after I quit was Spiral. Full power Spiral. With 3, I think it played that What's that one?
It had the drone and.
But what's the one Link monster that's Firewall? It had Firewall Dragon.
Lord.
It did this ridiculous combo, right? And it ended on like Max C from the grave that it got back to his hand with Firewall's effect. And like,
yeah, I think
it just did a lot.
2018 was like the worst year of Yu-Gi-Oh! Of all time.
Well, that was
like
Goki, FTK with the Pendulum deck, right? I remember seeing that. Goki took your whole hand with Gumblar Dragon. And then after that was done, then they went into turn 1 summon a bunch of Thunder Dragon Colossus and all this other shit where you couldn't search, you couldn't play. And then it just progressively, it just kept being ridiculous. And like, I know there was a point where Sky Striker was really good. Sky Striker's pretty like tame compared to everything else because it's still like,
well, 3 engage, 3 drone.
Yes, so. But all things considered, what we just talked about, it didn't kill you literally on turn 1 with an FTK. You got to draw your 6. You got to draw your 6 card.
People think that's a good format with like Sky Striker, Salomon Great, and like Orcus, but I'm like, no.
Yeah, I didn't play that form, but I did see it, and honestly, a lot of the time, the game just ended when the person did the full Orcus combo. They do full Orcus combo, and it's like, okay, well, that's just game. Like like you're gonna fight through it, but you're not going to get through it. Is the point? If your opponent is really good, you're just not going to get through it. So
yeah, so I've been following Yu-Gi-Oh since 2017. I just did not want to partake at all. So I know what like most of the cards do and like what the metas were, but I just like just because I was curious, but I never really wanted to play at all. But someone on the Discord, I think it was the Sunday of this Edison tournament. Someone like pinged me and they're like, hey, you should have gone to the YCS. It's actually a pretty good format. and then Sky Striker with Mystic Mine wins.
I hate this thing that Yu-Gi-Oh players try to do to me. And I get it. Like when you're on drugs, you always try to get people to do drugs with you because it's funny that way. But just leave me out of it because I'm sober now and there's nothing that will bring me back to that shit. Like people always say, oh, the game is good now. And then I go to a regional. There was a Philly regional a couple weeks ago. And there's a Philly regional actually in 2 days from this podcast. So this podcast will come out on Thursday. And there's a Philly regional June 11th. So there's one There's one this weekend. The last one I went to, and I'll tell the story again for people who don't know. Somebody was like, hey, when you coming back to the game? After he just told me a story about how his opponent was at 15,000 life points, and he killed them from 50. He was so happy. He said, I summoned 6 monsters, not 5. I summoned 6 monsters, and I attacked them and took all 15,000 life points in one turn. He's bragging about it. Then at the end of the story, we were having a conversation, and he goes, so when are you coming back? Nigga, never.
Never.
Literally never.
That was a rhetorical question.
Like, how dare you tell me that you just killed somebody from 15k in one turn by summoning not 5, but 6 monsters?
Yeah.
So, yeah, everyone tries to get me to come. Like, oh, the game's in a good spot. And I'm like, it's just not, though. And you're being delusional about it. Like, I get that you enjoy it. I don't mind that people like playing a game where the game is decided and on turn 1 consistently. Like, consistently, you cannot argue me with this point. Consistently, your game is over turn 1. It just is.
And then on top of it, what makes it worse is that you're watching your opponent play for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, no one likes to scoop because everyone feels like they have a shot. And sometimes they do break the board. And, you know, it's kind of like when you win at the casino. You win 1 out of every 20 times you go to the casino, right? Like you win once and you never forget the feeling of how it felt to win. So you always, you want that dopamine rush of that one time, though, he did his full combo and I won. You want that feeling, so you chase it. Like you will sit there. Think about how bad this habit is. You'll sit there and watch your opponent jerk off for 10 minutes in front of you, and then you get a turn. You draw your 6 card. It's nothing, and then you scoop. But because of that one time where you won, you won't. And I get it. It's like, why would I scoop? I could possibly still win. Yeah, I get it. But it's just to me, that's not fun.
Louis C.K. would love modern Yu-Gi-Oh. He'd be in.
Getting the jerk off.
You guys are making this dragon deck sound really bad. Just because, like, it's pretty much what it does.
It is.
It can do it, but it's not like game every.
It doesn't
turn.
Do it consistently, though. That's the thing. Like dragons, we'd be lying if we said that dragons did what it does sometimes, all the time. It just doesn't do it all the time. The problem with modern Yu-Gi-Oh is that
it's all the time.
The powerful decks do their combo every game. Like they just do it every game.
The other thing is it does feel different. Like the dragon deck is a lower interaction deck. But it does feel different in that, like, at the end of the day, your board is Blue Eyes and Red MD.
Yes.
Blue Eyes doesn't negate my cards. Like, like I can play around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You can.
Like, whereas like
I've won through Dragon Turbo doing its full combo a couple times because like my hand was just I had brain control and like something else. You know, it starts with brain control, but like I had a hand that kind of can play through it. Like I might have brain control, then I have oppression or something. And I was like, oh shit, I was able to get through it. But
yeah, you can definitely beat it. You just have to have like a really good particular hand.
Yes, it needs a particular hand. And the good thing is the Dragon deck sometimes takes time to do it. Like it's not always a turn one thing. Sometimes you draw your 6 and your Dragon turn is literally pass.
Yeah.
Literally pass.
The other thing that's cool about it, or cool about the format, I would say, is that, like, so, you know, this deck, it sets up big monsters, and it's like, you got to deal with these big monsters that swarm the field, but you can deal with them, and the deck doesn't play traps. Like, look at the deck list, there's no traps, right?
0.
So, you're just dealing with what's in front of you, right? But then you have a deck like Hero Beat, where it's not big monsters, but it's all traps, and so you're dealing with playing through all these traps. Modern Yu-Gi-Oh!, all of the, like, or both of those at the same time. But like all the traps are the monsters. It's the big monsters are the traps.
Yes.
And you gotta like
and then there's also the ones in the hand that you don't know about, but you have to assume that they have, so you have to play around them. And it's like it's a different game. And that's what I keep stressing to people is I don't hate Yu-Gi-Oh! I just hate I guess I hate
Modern,
the game that it is because Modern is not the same game. I think that when I sit down to play a game of Edison, and if I sit down to play a game of Modern, I'm not even playing the same game.
Nope.
The only familiarity is the size of the cards, right? And like certain cards is like, oh, Herald of Orange Lights played in both formats. That's cool. That's as far as the familiarity extends. Other than that, though, the game feels so drastically different when I watch somebody sit there and go Mystic Mind and literally draw pass like the top 4 feature match that got posted.
Draw pass.
Draw pass. And the feature match literally reads draw pass. He drew a card and pass. He drew a card and pass. He drew a card, and it goes straight down for a while until eventually the guy concedes.
That's awful.
Like we don't have that in Edison. We don't have that. We don't have so many auto wins or auto losses, however you want to look at it. There's just not that many auto wins and auto losses in Edison. Like, yeah, Future Fusion and Dragons, it feels pretty bad when it happens. You probably do lose the game, but again, you have a 15% chance of opening it. And you also could possibly still win through it. And again, 15%. It's not like every game, like, oh God, every game I have to deal with DPE plus Prank Kid plus the whole thing because he just drew Prank Kid and Adventure Token. It's like, oh, yeah, that does it.
Well, me and Pro Storm, we did like all the numbers testings because we like numbers and all that. Kind of like number nerds. But we went through all the numbers with this deck, like test hands, and then like how the tournament results actually were, and we compared them. And they were pretty spot on for the most part, even after side decking and all that. But and we can go into this later on too to see how consistent the deck actually was. But you can get in this deck, you get Future Fusion like in the first turn, you get like 30% because you're just drawing cards, and then like within the first 2 turns, you get like 45%. Yeah. So it's pretty.
So
high.
Almost half the games you will see it.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't even need it. It's just like, oh, because in this deck, you're not doing like other decks is like you're doing like the regular dragon is just like that's your game card. Where this deck is just like you're just emptying your deck, getting 3 blue eyes to your hand, getting 3 or 5 bad dragons out of your deck, and then you're just deck thinning.
Yeah, it's a very different feel.
Yeah.
The way this
so
feels.
It's not like completely game in this build, but it's okay because you have other stuff that is.
When do you side in Red Eyes Wyvern? Let me look at your side deck, but go ahead. When do you side in Red Eyes Wyvern?
So it's kind of like the side strat that we had against like because hard matchups, they're not very good decks, but like GB and X Sabers are like kind of brutal matchups if you're just going like main deck wise. So side deck, we want to bring in like the beaters and then roll oppression. So we bring in like Dragos, Wyverns, and oppression and then Book of Moon as well.
Yep.
So we take out a lot of our turbo cards and just side that in against those decks because they can't deal with like a 1600 defense Drago. Yeah, like Airbound just can't get over it, and then oppression just deals with like all the Gladiator Beasts and X Saber things. So that worked out pretty well. And then Wyvern is also pretty good against like the deck dev decks, where it's like Blackwing, Vayu Turbo, where they bring in deck dev. So normally you side out a couple small dragons and you bring those in just to have like because otherwise if you get deck dev, you only have instant fusion to summon your Red Eyes Darkness Metal.
Yes.
So you want to bring Wyvern in just to have like a monster you can just at least summon and banish.
I like that it beats over Fossil Dyna. That's really good.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's not awful. It's just it's kind of nice when they're bringing deck dev in and like they deck dev you and then you show them their hand and you have those tiny guys and you have like a Wyvern Red Eyes.
Yeah.
So
it also Red Eyes Wyvern with Future Fusion is so cracked.
Yeah.
Like that's where Future Fusion's card advantage is so scary because I remember
you gotta deal with it.
I remember one game I played against a random guy. We were playing on DB, and I was playing my little quick draw brew, and I remember he opened games 1, 2, and 3 with Future Fusion. I ended up winning one of them, but game 3, the way I ended up losing, he Future Fusion, he discarded his 5 dragons, and 2 of them were Wyverns, and 2 of them were blue eye or red eyes. And he ends his turn with just playing Future Fusion and summoning 2 red eyes in defense mode and passing. And he still has, after fucking doing that, like 5 cards in hand, and now he has 3 cards on the field. So he ends with 8 cards. He started with 6, ends with 8. I draw, and I have like, I think like Foolish Debris and all. Like I end up having to use quite a bit of my hand. Now I think this is when I was still playing Quick Draw. So my hand was like Dandelion, Quick Draw, Debris Dragon. And I had to use a good chunk of my hand to deal with his field. And I realized after I did it, I was like, holy shit, man. Like, I'm down to 3 cards. And this guy, literally, all he did was play Future Fusion.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't do a single other thing besides activate Future Fusion and pass. And I had to do so much to deal with that.
Yeah.
So,
it's essentially like painful choice. So it's pretty crazy card.
It's really nasty. And it's just like, God damn, man, I had to do all of that to deal with this field. And he still has, he's going to draw to 6. Like, this guy's going to draw to 6 and I have 3 cards. It's ridiculous. But, yeah, that's one of those things. Dragons is really fun. What other decks do you like in Edison format? Besides 55 card X-Sabers.
I think Black Wings is okay. It's a little frustrating. Like, I have like a build that's like made to like wipe out all the disruption back row. So it's like you had like your Blackwing monsters can walk because it's annoying when they're just constantly getting stopped on summon. You can't do Whirlwind.
So what are you playing? So, like My Body Has a Shields and shit?
I have a crazy build where it was like I was just briefly testing it, but it was like 3 Dust Tornado, 3 7 Tools. It doesn't play Oppression, and it plays like 2 Road. So you can just like slap all your back row, and then they can't do anything.
Yeah.
And then you have like
start summoning in it, yeah.
And then you have the Book of Moons and Icarus Attacks, and I didn't get to. I'd probably play like 15 matches with it, but it felt really good. I can actually summon Blackwing monsters and they do something rather than getting stopped all the time. So,
I have a love-hate relationship with Blackwings. My issue with Blackwings is that it's just fucking boring.
It is pretty boring.
That is my only gripe with it. I never will say that Blackwings is a bad deck because that's just untrue. It's obviously one of the best decks in the format. It has, for the most part, 3 of all of its cards, right? Like I value that. I value decks. Like even look at your Dragon Turbo deck. It has so many cards that it can play 3 copies of, and so many cards that it does play 3 copies of. And those decks tend to be really broken. I looked at the zombie deck, and I had a hard time coming.
1/1/1.
Yes, it's a deck of 22 1-ofs. I had a hard time coming to like terms with the zombie deck in general because of the fact that it plays 22 1-ofs. But then I realized it's playing those 1-ofs because those cards are broken as fuck.
Yeah,
and so. Every game when you play against zombies, it's like, God damn, he had the Dark Arm this game. The next game he might have the Return. The next game he might have, and it's just like he had the Burial this game. You know what I mean? Like it's just so many of them that it can kind of become annoying. But that, as cute as that is, there's something to be said about a deck that's just consistent. Like it does the same thing consistently. You know what you're gonna draw. Like fairies, doesn't say it's all 3 ofs. Fairy deck is literally all 3 ofs. You know exactly what it's gonna do. So Blackwings has that feel to it as well. You got your Greffers, your Vayus, your Sirocco's, your Boras, your Blizzard, your Kalut, and then Gale's at 1, Dark Arm's at 1. Everything else that I just named is at 3. You can play as many copies as you want. I see people playing 2 Shora, 2 Bora, whatever mix you want to do, but you have the option to play like 3 of all your cards. Whirlwind's at 2, which is fine. If you notice how many times people open up with fucking Lone Fire Blossom and Titano, people open up with Whirlwind just as much. It's like, okay, yeah. Like, so yeah, Blackwings is a good deck. But it's so outrageously boring to me that I almost never want to play it. Like it's so boring.
I need to venture out again because, like, again, I said I took a break from this deck and then I wanted to venture out and try other decks. So I was trying to like the streamline ones where it's like Blackwing, Quick Draw, Vayu, and I actually haven't really touched any like the Diva Hero variants at all because, like, again, I don't really think those decks are like that great.
Yeah.
D was really good, but that's about it. And I tried Lightsworn. I need to like revisit them and see like I have like a better idea. Like I have like a quick draw list I want to try again just to mess around with.
Quick draw is so I like I said, I have a love-hate relationship with quick draw. I think the card is terrible. But then recently I've actually been playing around with quick draw. Like in the last month or so, I put quick draw back in some of my plant decks and I was playing with it. And I think you even saw me play on stream the one time. I was using like a Flamvel Magical Merchant quick draw deck, and that shit.
Yeah, you were ranting.
And I was playing one of our patrons on Patreon, and it was.
He was
really
also
fun.
ranting.
He was ranting.
He was also ranting. We were all kinds of rants around.
But it was really fun because the deck plays like no
Lord
traps.
British.
And yes, the deck plays no traps. The quick draw, Flamvel, Magical Merchant deck or whatever. It plays no traps. It's Magical Merchant gets flipped. The goal is obviously to mill a bunch of monsters, and then you can Rekindling, you can Debris Dragon, you can quick draw into Drill Warrior and get back anything you want. So it's a really fun deck, and I like those kinds of decks. Like they're not obviously the pinnacle of competitiveness, but you can still go to my local. Is the way we do it is just 3 rounds because it starts at 7 p.m. so it's pretty late. But on Thursday nights it starts at 7 p.m. and then you just play 3 rounds, and then they cut the top 8, and then you play 1 round and then it splits the top 4, and then top 4 get half a box each. It's like everybody gets 12 packs that makes top 4, and that's how they do it every week. So it's like you play basically a max of 4 rounds every week, and for those tournaments you can play anything. You can literally play anything because you're only playing 3 rounds in Swiss and then 1 round of top cut, so you can literally top 4 split. So I switch my deck every week. Like every week I'll play something different because it's fun, and I pretty much top 4 split every week because you can get away with anything. And it's really fun to do that.
Yeah, I need to get like an Edison local going in my area because I live in Georgia. I don't live.
You're a Georgia native?
No, I was born in Pennsylvania, so like I'm a Philly sports fan.
Oh,
so I like the Eagles and the Phillies. I follow them a lot. So
you also enjoy heartbreak.
Yes.
You
know heartbreak, but you also know victory. In the last 10 years, well, I should say it's been longer now because Philly's
got like a Super Bowl shirt on.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. There's been some victories in Philly. In the last...
recently. Well, the Phillies haven't been that good.
I know people that listen to this, at least I suspect, aren't necessarily sports fans, but working at the bar and having those sports games on, I laughed so hard the one day. This was a couple weeks ago. The Phillies were playing. They were up 9-0.
No, that game.
They were up like, it was either 9 or 7. They were up like 9-0 for like 7 innings. And then in like the 8th inning, they just lost. Like the other team.
The 9th.
It was the 9th inning. The other team came back from 9-0 and won.
In baseball.
I couldn't fucking believe it.
I remember I watched that game, part of it. I was like watching like the 6th or 7th inning. It was like at least 6-0. I was like, oh, they got this. I'm gonna turn it off because they're just gonna drag it out and win. And then I hear like I look on Twitter and I follow these like Philly sports people, and they're like all losing their mind. I'm like, what happened? And then I look, and then it's like they lost. I was like, how?
That's
the biggest throw. But yeah, the Phillies just fired their manager too.
So. I saw that.
But yeah, I was actually born in Harrisburg, so a couple hours from you guys.
Okay, so you were never really close. But when did you move to Georgia?
No. I moved to North Carolina when I was 9, so I didn't spend like a lot of my life in Pennsylvania. But then I moved to Georgia in 2017. So
okay,
and I graduated college here. So
okay, and then what'd you study?
Mechanical engineering.
Wow,
that's what I'm doing.
So you are a whiz. You're a pretty smart guy.
If you want to call it that.
I'm going to call it that because engineering is very, very difficult. I mean, obviously it's hard to toot your own horn and be like, yeah, I am pretty fucking smart. What about it? Like,
yeah.
But I would say, because I have friends who are engineers, software engineers mostly, but I mean, in general, like those people are pretty smart. And if you do any kind of engineering, civil engineering, mechanical engineering, chemical engineering, software engineering, anything, computer engineering.
There's a lot of thinking going on.
Yes, and you guys have to take some crazy ass classes.
Oh yeah.
So I respect you guys who are the engineers of the world. I thought I heard you say that you were an engineer before, either in the Discord or somewhere else. And I was like, damn, Hydro's out here Started with his little dragon drawings and his Yu-Gi-Oh drawings, and now he's just a whole ass engineer. Like, look at how you grow up.
I only share that because it was 5-headed dragon, and then I did well with dragons.
Yeah, that had to feel amazing, by the way, because you're pretty much the creator of the Dragon Turbo deck, right? Like,
yeah. Well, I'll just go over this real quick. So I did well with the deck at a year ago at that tournament. I got third. I was like, yo, it's gonna be hype. Everyone's gonna be like crazy about this deck, and it was like crickets. I was like, okay. And then I just like kept on like bringing it up in the Discord, be like, oh, you gotta watch out for Dragon Turbo, and then just mess with people. And then like,
I'm sorry, that is so good.
Yeah, but like 5 months later, out of nowhere, just like out of the blue, everyone's like, bro, Dragon Turbo, this deck is crazy. And then everyone started playing it and stuff online, and then like no one did well with it at all.
Yeah.
And so like everyone just like, oh, it's like super inconsistent. You break like 90% of the time, and
so that's
and then
so a lot of people do say that. So you got second, right? So in your run, you clearly did something. I don't know whether it be cards that you changed. What did you do to overcome the consistency? Because getting second, you had to figure something out in order for it to be consistent.
So like through our calculations, me and ProStorm did, you get like the open, like absolutely insane broken hand. You just auto win like 35%, 35%, which is kind of high. And then about like the other 35%, you open like decent okay for the first couple turns. And then like the next 35%. So it's kind of even. You brick the first turn, but then there's like percentages for like the next couple turns that we did, whereas like you unbrick. So you can have like a brick hand, but then you draw the piece you're missing the next turn, and then you pop off. Yeah. So we calculated like at least 65% of the time, we're just like probably just gonna outright win through that. And so the hardest part of this deck to me, or like I guess in general, the most people probably is just playing like the decent hands, because you have to know how to grind through what they got, and then just like maintain like a good positioning until you're able to like just auto win. So
yeah, the nut hands you're saying.
Yeah.
You have to know how to navigate those, because some games are very tame, and I've had to play through those as well, where you just have like one red eyes, and you just have the work one red eyes.
Yeah, I have to like make the ship float for a while.
Something I didn't even notice until Fraser asked, when do you side in Wyvern? I didn't even notice Wyvern's not in the main deck. No. I feel like most of the Dragon decks, at least that I remember, play Wyvern main deck.
So I was the original build. I had one Wyvern in the main deck because I thought it was like, well, you can send one, it'll be fine. Yeah. The main problem is, he is a brick. Like you never want to draw him unless you have like card destruction. But so he's a brick for the most part, and then you get to the problem is like even if you do Wyvern for like red eyes, you don't have any back row to protect your red eyes. So that was like another problem. So I was like, well, I might as well just cut it if it's a brick, and then it's not even that good to summon like one Red Eyes Darkness Metal at the end phase, because you can't summon anything the turn you do that either. Yeah. So it's like it's only good if you have like Future Fusion, which if you have Future Fusion, you're winning anyways.
So that was my problem with Wyvern as well. Is like, okay, well if I do Future Fusion, I'm fucking in the clear.
Yeah,
anyway.
You're good.
You know what I mean? I'm happy. I know.
And
I get it.
Yeah. So I just brought it as like more of a side deck card, just for like the deck dev, or like to like slow down like decks that can just like body you.
Beat over Fossil Dyna.
Yeah.
Beat over Banisher to Radiance. Those are the things to me. I love that shit. Like when people just turn one, they're like summon Banisher pass, and you're just like, oh, summon crack.
Yeah, the hero beat guy, he brought Banisher against me. I was like, okay. Oh, that's fine.
Summon one of my 3 Dragos.
Yeah. And but yeah, Wyvern actually won me a game against Cam in top 6, where I just Future Fusion. I didn't have anything else other than Future Fusion turn 1, but I sent Wyvern because he's playing Black Wings, so I decided it in. And then I was just able to ride that one Red Eyes because he didn't open anything to deal with Red Eyes. So
that's what I said. If Red Eyes Darkness Metal walks, it is literally game.
Yeah.
Like by itself, he lost that entire match, that entire game, because Red Eyes he couldn't deal with it. He didn't have Whirlwind Shura to get Gale and then do all the nutty stuff.
And there's something to note: that first tournament I went 6-0 to start off with, and then this one I went 5-0. So to start off, so
I will say this too. I love the way Dueling Book makes the Dragon deck draw, because in person, I don't know what. Now look, hear me out. I don't know what it is, but in person, maybe the cards clump together.
Dude, that is real though. Like
it really is though. Kenny,
when you test hands with real decks, I noticed that like when I bought my Monarch deck that I built, when you test hands, like I tested a bunch of hands on Dueling Book, and I get consistently different hands in like my physical deck than I do on Dueling Book, because just the way the physical cards clump together in some way, like
and also human.
I don't really know if there's any way to fix it.
Like, human hands are not really like it's not possible for us to randomize. Like we're not capable of random when we shuffle.
Yeah.
Like we can't actually randomize.
We try our best.
Yeah.
I definitely try my best.
We pile shuffle, we do all types of shit, but our shuffling methods, our human shuffling methods, are just not capable of properly randomizing a deck. So when I play at locals and I future fusion somebody one game, and then I do everything I can. I pile shuffle, I do all that. And then the next thing I just fucking draw like double Blue Eyes, double Whitestone, and like a super rejuvenation and like nothing, right? Like Heavy Storm.
Yeah. I noticed like consistently, like there'll be like 5 sets of cards that no matter what I do, no matter how I shuffle, they just always up next to each other. Like Caius is always with these 3 other cards, and there's nothing I can do about it. Like for whatever reason, Caius is always with these 3 cards,
and when I
can't do anything to change it.
I love Dueling Book for the simple fact that I just feel like it's a better representation of the mathematical possibilities of your deck.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that when I sit at I often, because I have like I said, I have decks built right now. They're not next to me; they're downstairs. But I sit at my desk and I shuffle in real life just because I like the feeling of it. I love Yu-Gi-Oh, and I'll look at the hands and be like, man, this deck draws so much better on Dueling Book than when I'm fucking sitting here doing whatever I'm doing.
Yeah,
but I feel like Dueling Book is more accurate.
I haven't played any Edison tournaments in person yet, right. So I haven't really ran into that problem, but I have the deck and paper. I just do test hands when I'm bored and stuff. Yeah. So I haven't come across that problem personally, but I can kind of see the frustration.
Yeah, like if you play in tournaments a lot, like I play in a tournament every single week, like every Thursday. Yeah. Tomorrow, my favorite day of the week. Kenny knows this. My favorite day of the week is Thursday.
I'm waiting for it to. So once again, I work outside. So if it rains, I have a day off. The problem is you don't really know.
Yeah.
You don't really know until like I have to be in at a certain time, and it's like you're just sitting there. And so like last Thursday, for example, it was supposed to rain, and it did rain. But they were like, but it's probably going to pass over, so just come in. So I was actually last Thursday, I was going to go to AU. I said to Vinny, I said, next time it rains and I don't have to work, I'm going to go to AU. And so I've been waiting for a Thursday for it to rain. It just hasn't done it. Last Thursday it did rain, but they told me to come in anyway, which sucked. But
if I see a drop of rain, I'm playing Yu-Gi-Oh.
But yeah, I'm waiting. Next time it rains on a Thursday, I'm heading up to AU.
Yeah.
So what do you usually play, Kenny? Like
I just play my
Monarch variants, because I know you said you didn't like the Frog Monarchs.
I don't. The original Frog Monarch deck I think sucks. I do think the Frog Hero version is good though. The Frog Hero Monarch
feels a lot
is
better.
Good. But regular Frog Monarchs, I personally just don't think is good. I play, and I even played this back in 2010. I play like a Dandy Warrior kind of. I don't play Quick Draw though. I basically play like a Debris Dragon Dandelion. I play that kind of deck, but with Monarchs. It's a Monarch focused deck, but a lot of the Dandelion deck type ingredients.
Yeah, like it plays like Wing Blast. He plays like Level Eater.
Just without the crappy quick draws.
Yeah, you know what's crazy? Wing Blast is so fucking good. Like that is the trap of this format. Like Edison format is Wing Blast format. That card is insane.
Yeah.
And any deck that can play it, well, any deck that's playing traps, I feel like should be playing Wing Blast, unless it's Hero Beat, of course, because that deck just plays its own broken traps like Skill Drain and no other deck can play. But Wing Blast, like decks that can support that card, it just feels so good to Wing Blast your opponent.
You settle it's time seal. You know, set them back a turn.
That fucking guy was not supposed to have Gores. Fuck him.
Yeah.
It's also supposed to it gets your bad guys into your graves that you want there too. So
yeah, it's really like there's a lot of times where like if I draw Treeborn, like I don't set Treeborn just so he can get Caius.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times I'm like, well, I'll just leave this Treeborn in my hand until I draw a Wing Blast. That way I get rid of it that way or whatever.
Actually, one of the best openings, I think, in Edison format. And it's the reason why like Silch's Ruins probably does well a lot. And just like anyone who's like the zombie deck, stuff like that. Stratos, Search Militia, set Wing Blast is literally a crack opening.
Yeah.
It is it looks so simple when you like just look at what's happening, but then when you see the end result, they go first. So specifically, it's going first, summoning Stratos, getting that +1. So you have 7 cards turn 1, setting Wing
You only need
Blast.
2 cards to set this up.
Yes, it's so simple. Stratos and just Wing Blast. And it's so broken. And then your opponent takes their turn. They do whatever nonsense they try to do. On end phase, let's say they're playing a tame deck, right? Like something that sets traps.
Set Raikou.
Yep, set Raikou, set a back row pass. And on end phase, you Wing Blast their back row, discard Malicious, spin it to the top of their deck, and then you draw for turn, banish Malicious, summon Malicious, then you summon Diva or Plague Spreader or whatever. And it just gets so out of hand, and they're drawing a bad card. Because traps suck against established fields.
And what's even better about that is you play 3 of both of those. You play 3 Stratos and 3 Wing Blasts.
That's kind of like the problem with like oppression, because in my eyes, because like people that are weak to oppression are going to be prepared for it. Like activate oppression, Wing Blast. Oh, it goes to the top of your deck. That's a dead card.
Oppression, yeah. Yeah, certain decks can't deal with oppression going to the top. Like certain decks can, certain decks can't. Like when heroes have to redraw oppression, it really sucks. Now a deck like fairies can redraw oppression and it can just be fine because that deck is what I call resilient. Like I think it is one of the most resilient decks in the game. It's one of the decks that when I play it, I don't really care what you're playing. I know that I won't die. Like it's very hard to kill the fairy deck outright because of all the recruiters, the DD War Ladies, the Honest, and now it's playing Thunder King, which gives it even more resilience, right? It's just like extends the games out really, really long. And then obviously sometimes you think you have game and then they Herald of Orange Light you. Like one time I literally had somebody go Cold Wave and he like Prisma Test Target me. And like he didn't even go to grab the Darius out his deck. He like Prisma Test Target, threw the Prisma into the deck and threw the Test Target in the grave and just like popped those 2 attack. And I was like, whoa.
I got something.
Put the Gyzaris out there. Put the Gyzaris out there. Okay, when you Gyzaris, I'm gonna Herald and you're gonna have Cold Wave yourself. And it's passed back to me. Oh my god! Yeah, you cold wave
so bad.
Yeah, like,
and GB,
you cold wave yourself. Yeah, it's more stories about GBs getting destroyed by their own cold wave. Oh, that's so bad. But yeah, it's funny that deck plays a hand trap.
Yeah, I actually like we side deck My Body as a Shield does for Herald, and then we have Prime Material Dragon.
Oh wow! Well. I didn't even think about that. That does work though.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
But that was a small thing.
Let's see, you saw Book of Moon, you saw MST, of course, Treacherous Trap Hole. So when do you side in Treacherous Trap Hole? Like when does that come up?
So we did have like the 3rd Lightning Vortex, but we just kind of treated Trap Hole as the 3rd Lightning Vortex instead because it's reactive.
Yeah.
So against like decks that are just gonna beat you down, it's good against that, or like clock you really quick, then you can just bring that in.
Do you ever side in Treacherous with any of your traps?
No.
So when you side in Treacherous, you only side in Treacherous?
Yeah.
The only reason I ask is because I could see siding Treacherous and Decree against certain decks because some of the decks that, like for example, I feel like Decree shuts down like Black Wings because they play a lot of traps. Decree shuts down a lot of decks, and Treacherous happens to also be pretty good against those decks too. But I can see if you're like, I don't want to have the conflicting, like, oh, I might draw Treacherous while I have Decree up, even though I'm one of those people who I don't like. It's like basically asking, do you side out Gores when you side in Decree? And like to me, I personally do not, because a deck that I'm siding Decree against, Gores is probably really good against that deck too. And if I draw one or the other, I just kind of want to have blowouts against those decks. Like like Hero Beat, for example. If I play against Hero Beat, I want Decree. I also want Gores though. Like I'm happy with either one.
If I'm shutting you down with my Decree, like Gores, maybe it's dead, but it's not. Like it's just waiting for you to deal with Decree.
Yeah, like if you ever get through Decree, like you're gonna get screwed by the Gores because you're probably thinking to yourself, well, he doesn't have Gores. Hey, people always say that. People always like, oh, you don't have Gores.
There's no way. But against Black Wings in particular, I like siding Decree when going first, but I do not like it siding going second. Just because if they start off with like Whirlwind Shura and then going first, and then I have to set Decree,
Yep.
and then
You can take a
pass.
lot of damage.
Yeah. So
because they're going to play like an ape. Like
Yeah.
there's no like there's no way. This is the terminology that we use in the Philadelphia area, guys. But
Oh, okay.
people play like a fucking ape when they notice what kind of deck you're playing. Like for example, if I play against Dragon Turbo or if I play against a Nerlaris deck or any kind of deck like that, I'm going to summon all my monsters and I'm going to attack you. And I don't care about any Gores or Tragodia and all that stuff. You have to have it because at the end of the day, the longer you get to play, the more chances is my deck that has a lower ceiling is going to lose the game if you get to play. So you just have to reckless abandon, just start attacking. And yeah, I mean, like it doesn't feel good to set a decree against an established field. So I totally get that. Not want to take a ton of damage. Yeah, decree going first though is crack.
Yeah, funny story. It's like I remember one time I played against a Blackwing player and he just summoned. It was like game 2. He summoned like 4 Blackwings just to like span the field and get pressure. And it was like lightning vortex all his entire field.
Yeah, people don't expect that either. That's why like, Vortex is so slept on.
Yeah, it's really a good card.
People do not expect it because the goal is naturally to rush down the rushdown deck.
Yeah.
And then Lightning Vortex just claps you for doing it.
Yeah, so it takes care of like the rush and then like the anti-meta cards as well. So
what else is there? So extra deck, I see Trident Dragon in here. Did that come up at all during RBT3? Or was it just like something in testing, but it never actually came up?
It came up a couple times where I could have made it, but I had a game anyways. Actually, there was one I wanted to talk about this. It was going to come up. Did you want me to talk about the top 8 at all, real quick?
Oh yeah, you could talk. Yeah, because we're going to start
whatever you want.
Soon. So just go off on everything you want to talk about.
Yeah. So top 8, playing against the guy that won, Monster Gamer or whatever, but he was playing the Blackwing Vayu deck. I lost 2-0, but I just lost game 1 because like I just got rushed down and I couldn't get going. But game 2, I lost because he was at 10k life points, and I did not have a second card to pop for Trident Dragon.
If you had anything to pop, you could have actually killed him.
If I just had like any spell or an extra monster to pop, I would have won. So maybe I should have waited like an extra turn, and then like next turn he like just exploded. He just like Blizzard, Bora, Dad, and I just lost. But anyways, yeah, Trident came up there if I had an extra card to pop. I won a game with it before, but in testing it came up like all the time. It was just like when me and ProStorm were testing, it was just like bam, 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 just game. Like you're at like 11k, I'm just gonna kill you anyways. And it can also kill through Gores if you don't have Drago, for instance.
That makes sense.
And then I think for ProStorm it came up a lot. He said he summoned it like 3 times in his first couple matches per game. So kind of interesting.
So, and primarily where Upstart is concerned, it comes up more often.
It doesn't come up a lot, but like it might get you like a game or 2 throughout like a tournament.
Because there's not much else. The deck doesn't make that many different cards that it needs to even have. It's not like you're sacrificing something, right? Like your deck plays Exploder Dragonwing for fuck's sake. So it has.
The extra deck, there's like. Yeah, the extra deck is like you have like a lot of very niche cards, but there's probably like you could probably have like a 20 card extra deck and have like a situation come up for like, oh, this card will happen in this situation. But again, Edison format is like so diverse and there's so many different situations or game states you'll get in, whereas like a random extra deck card will just come up out of like, and you're like, man, I wish I had it. Like a second 5-headed dragon would have won me a game, and I didn't have it.
Yes, a second fucking 5-headed of all things.
We might make a couple of tweaks with the extra deck after, but overall it was pretty good. And then I got a game with Tempest Magician when I won with that for burn.
I did actually see that. That was top 4 against Cam, right?
Did you summon Tempest Magician?
Oh yeah.
So you go instant fusion into Musician King.
Yeah.
And then
instant fusion is insane. Like a card is just
people are confused that why I played the card, but you know it gives you a lot of synchro options, and then you get it also counts as a dragon for dark fire dragon, so you can banish it for red med.
So I play 3 instant fusions in my Machina dragon deck. I wasn't sure if instant fusion was even being played in dragons, but I remember the first time I was playing against people, and I noticed that if I just go instant fusion for a monster, a 5-star, and then summon Whitestone, synchro for Brionic, search Blue Eyes, and literally pass. Okay, that play would win me so many games because the decks in the format a lot of times just can't deal with that. Like a fucking Brionic turn 1 And I still have 5 cards in hand. I'm drawing the 6. So you have to deal with the Brionic, whatever resources you throw to the Brionic. And then I'm drawing the 6 still.
Yeah.
And then I just do random shit like mocking a gear frame, and then it gets Fortress, and it just be like, oh, what the fuck is this? Like, it's
I'll
so
never
interesting.
forget the first time I played that stupid ass deck. I was playing against it. I'm dealing with dragons, and then he summons mocking a gear frame.
Yeah, I was so lost when I watched that stream. I was like, what's happening?
It kills you just like any other deck, too. It kills you just like any other dragon deck. Like, it does the exact same thing. It will just actually kill you.
But yeah, just a quick note on Brionic and Tempest. You can go like turn 1, summon them if you have an Instant Fusion Whitestone, and then it can fuel your Rejuve because they both say discard in the text. So you can discard you can have those 2 cards in like a handful of dragons and just discard them all, burn for like 2,500 with Tempest, or just keep on bouncing Rejuve with Brionic, and then you just activate and then draw like 5 new cards. So
that's
pretty cool
too. Yeah, I like that.
But yeah, for the top 8, I lost to that monster gamer guy, and then top 6.
The way you said it twice now. That monster gamer guy.
I think that's his name, isn't it not?
His name is Monster Gamer, right? Not Monster Gamer guy.
Oh, okay. Monster Gamer 13. Sorry.
He's a 13-year-old. I love it. He most likely made that name when he was 13, because I have like a
Monster Gamer.
I have like a
That's
Dark
like
Naruto 16 username somewhere. It's really
Fraser was Dark Sasuke for a long time.
I was damn it, I switched it up because I want people to know. I said Dark Naruto 16. It's actually Dark Sasuke.
Dark Naruto's worse.
That's what I'm saying, but I wanted it to be cringe.
Yeah, Dark Naruto's so, because like Sasuke's already dark.
He's already dark, yeah.
Dark Naruto is like you're trying so hard.
You want to be edgy,
like you're trying so hard.
You want to be an edgelord so bad.
Naruto's like John Cena, I guess.
Naruto's cringe.
But yeah, so I played against Cam, and we're on the same team. We played top 6, 6th place, top 6, and then I won. The first game, I go first. I open Future Fusion card destruction. So that was just a
god.
So you add 3 blue eyes, and then you card destruction for your hand. So discarding. Yeah, that's like that's like the god combo. I even typed combo in chat when I saw it, my opening hand. And then top 4 hero be easy clap. This Royal Decree game. And then top 3 against Silchus. I would have won 2-0, but he summoned Spirit Reaper like 3 times against me game 2.
I did see that, yeah.
I couldn't. If I had Prime Material in the grave, I would have won like on the spot, and then
because you can make your Exploder Dragon Wing.
Yeah, and then if I had like Instant Fusion, Vortex, but I didn't see any of that. I summoned 3 Blue Eyes that game on the field. That was pretty cool. Just didn't do anything.
Spirit Reaper.
Yep. That was the only time Spirit Reaper has ever got me. So if you guys think that this deck just loses to Spirit Reaper, doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, I'm aware of that because I'm the guy at locals. No one in my locals plays dragons really, but when I play against the people, definitely try to wall up in weird ways, and it's just like that doesn't work.
I remember when I first started playing this deck, and someone brought in like Dragon Capture Jar against me.
Yo, someone at my local actually mentioned that.
Doesn't do anything.
I said, what the fuck? I said, is that real? He's like, yeah, you can sign up for Dragon. I said, if you go that hard for me, because I was like, you were just signing up for me. That's just go off, King. Go off.
Yeah. I remember I saw some player.
All that card does is switch from the defense mode, right?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't capture the dragons at all.
No.
It just lightly obscures their fucking their path.
Makes them sit down. Dragons. That's about it.
It's false advertising.
Yeah.
It is. If Dragon Capture Guard, like, remove them all from play or some shit, it just puts them in defense. It's stumbling.
Take control of all your dragons.
Like, it doesn't do anything.
It doesn't stop their effects or anything. Grave of the Super Ancient Organism, though.
Oh, that's another card.
Is that in Edison format?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It came out in Ancient Prophecy.
Oh, so it came out eons ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, Grave of the Super Ancient Organism is like all level 6 or higher monsters cannot activate their effects or something like that.
Can't even Brionic it.
And it does something else too. It says like they can't activate their effects.
They can't attack.
I think they can't attack. Yeah, I think you're right. Grave of the Super Ancient. It's a trap card. It's a continuous trap. And it just reminds me of Dragon Capture Jar in a way, but it does a little bit. All level 6 or higher special summon monsters on the field cannot declare attacks or activate it. So it doesn't stop monarchs. Because that would actually be pretty. If it's not Monarchs too, this card would be like, okay.
Yeah. Nice floodgate. It would be like the new Warlords because that card's trash.
Yeah,
now.
Warlords is so bad.
Even if it stopped normal, it still doesn't stop Big Zaborg. All right, he's like, I'm 5 stars.
Big Zaborg doesn't give a fuck. He the first Monarch, and he's for whatever reason he's 5 stars.
I've always wanted him to just get errated to 6 stars, man, just to make it match.
But yeah, and I go to the finals to play against the Blackwing guy again, and I guess it wasn't my day against playing against him because you know how you play Lace War and you just get RNG'd or just like really bad.
Well, that was my RBET2. RBET2, somebody turn 1, round 1, Charger Light Brigade, Mills Wolf, Gardner, and like something else, and I knew immediately I was like, I'm not getting out this round.
Yeah.
Hey, at least the guy you lost to got top 8.
He did. So. But yes, I know what it's like to get RNG. Yeah. It does not feel very good.
It was like, I think the only time I lose with this deck is when like I just get like super unlucky. I don't want like to say it like that, but
it is what it is.
Because I went the first game against the Blackwing guy in the finals. I dug like halfway through my deck and I didn't see Rejuve, and I discarded like 6 dragons. And I was like, well, I guess I just have to pass. And then my next card was Rejuve. I was like, bro, that's a slap in the face. So, and then I was able to go off that turn and resolve Rejuve. And I discarded like, I don't know how many cards. I had like maybe 15 left in deck or so. And then like I drew my cards for Rejuve. And it was like 2 blue eyes, 2 debris dragons, and a white stone. I was like, are you kidding me? And then like the rest of my deck was like complete gas. So like I just drew like the worst like combination of cards possible in this loss. Like my friends are like, yeah, Rejuve, he got this, and then I was just like, pass.
Damn, like, that does hurt. That's a hard when like you have it all and then your car stalls out. You're like, I guess I didn't have enough gas. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it just happens sometimes. Like sometimes you'll just be playing this deck and like Heavy Storm and Giant Tornado, your bottom 2 cards. So
I run into that, man. When like your deck will have like the deck that I run, it gets down to a pretty small deck kind of quickly. Like I'll have 10 cards left in my deck, and it's like there's still 2 Caius and a Ryza left in the deck. I'm like, if I just draw one of these, and like they're the bottom 3 cards.
Like, Kenny, you've become a bot friend. Yep. I think you're good now. It gave me a little notification in the top right. Yep. I mean, it happens every once in a while. Is it Mr. Potato Head talking?
It's Mr. Potato Head. I have it set up where I can't hear him, so...
Okay, so you figured out how to do something at least?
Yeah, he still ruins my computer with a shitty radio signal.
There he goes again. All right, well...
I got all that. That was it for me.
All right, well, we are going to wrap this one up since Kenny's audio is being attacked, and we're almost approaching the 2-hour mark, so we're doing pretty good. But thank you so much.
Attacked by Potato Patch. I hate him.
Thank you so much, HydroPump, for joining the IMNerd podcast and also for supporting the IMNerd podcast literally through Patreon. You've been doing it for several months now. We really appreciate you, man. And I'm glad. Congratulations on your 2nd place. Congratulations on getting your invite. I still got to try to earn my invite. So there is the charity tournament coming up June 25th, I believe. Whatever weekend that is. There's a charity RBET tournament coming up. And I think it's $10 entry, a charity of your choice. And I'll be playing in that. And the next RBT4, I think is in like August, and I'll probably be playing in that as well. So, I hope to see you guys in Edison Legends or whatever that thing is called, where it's like Edison Rulers.
Yeah, Rulers.
Yeah, I want to get to that tournament. That'll be really fun.
That was like my main goal. I was just trying to get to the top 8 and then
qualify.
Second place. Yeah, second place was just icing on the cake.
Yes, second place is very, very nice. You got some monies, and
I wish I had topped the last one.
Yes, the last one was cracked. Dude. That $1,000 Metafy pop bonus or whatever it was.
Probably would have gotten like $300 at least.
I know, isn't that crazy? By playing at home too, just sitting in your living room.
Yeah,
you would have got more money than everyone who topped the YCS except like top 3.
Just get like a mat.
They get everyone who gets anything outside of top 3 for a YCS. You get like a mat. You might get a Switch sometimes, but like I bet the Switch they give out is not even a real. It's probably the fucking handheld Switch.
Switch Lite.
The Switch Lite. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm kidding, but the fact is, you probably would have still gotten more value.
Yeah,
by just getting anything outside up there.
It's kind of sad, like the prize support for big Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments, like from Konami.
Yes, $1 billion company, by the way, is completely dwarfed by a grassroots one guy running the show, homebrew tournament scene that like we're all coming together to bring back Boomer Yu-Gi-Oh. But
this was only a couple hundred players, and then those tournaments were like 1,000 or 2.
Literally 1,200 people.
Yeah.
Go off. All right, guys. Have a good night. As always, say to do the things that make you happy. And we are out of here.
Potato. Potato.